अलग किस्म का झगड़ा हो रहा था वहाँ पे, और जिससे मतलब फाइट्स आर फन। सो
तो हमने बहुत सारे सीन्स शूट किए हैं, मैंने और इन्होंने और हम तीनों ने एक्चुअली। बट श्रेया को जहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा मज़ा आया था जब मुझे थप्पड़ मारा।
करेक्ट,
क्योंकि स्क्रीन पे भी लड़ाई, वैनिटी में भी लड़ाई, तो फिर तो बनेगा ही नहीं कुछ। So I think also you're professional actors, like you come into it with your contract signed and you want to do a good scene. So personally there's so much at stake to be well behaved. श्रेया और जो मेरे किरदार हैं, जो लड़कियां हैं, वो दिल्ली की बड़ी रिबेलियस वाली, जो दिल्ली की लड़कियां होती हैं ना, थोड़ी सी जो I mean I feel like
ये ज्यादा पर कंपेयर टू कश्यप,
but
I am Akriti Bagla, and today on Absolute India News I have with me the very talented Shriya Pilgaonkar, Varun Mitra and Sungandha. Garag. Hi guys, how have you all been?
We're all right. How are you?
I am good. And how's the excitement for your series like?
A lot. People have really said some positive things and they seem to be excited. Therefore, we are very excited.
lots of beer. पीनी पड़ेगी थोड़ी बहुत तो.
The first few days, I think my sleep was heavily disturbed because of the excitement. But now, it's like this.
Yeah.
It's like this. The excitement goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and hopefully it'll level up and I'll sleep properly.
So even I said this thing to Shefali ma'am, कि when I saw the trailer na, it looks like I'm actually watching a court case going on, the way you guys are fighting, arguing. So I have to start off by asking, how was the environment on set?
As characters, Varun and I especially, क्योंकि हम ज़्यादा argue कर रहे हैं एक दूसरे के साथ, तो हमने जो long takes में हमारे मज़े बहुत किए हैं. I think we really enjoyed our scenes together in court a lot. Thankfully हमारे lines बहुत पक्के थे, because otherwise जैसे सुगंधा पहले इंटरव्यू में कह रही थी कि lawyers को भी lines they also need lines that they should know in terms of the sections and articles, and therefore we also had to get all of that in order. पर अलग किस्म का झगड़ा हो रहा था वहाँ पे, और जिससे मतलब फाइट्स आर फन. सो
तो हमने बहुत सारे सीन्स शूट किए हैं, मैंने और इन्होंने और हम तीनों ने एक्चुअली. बट श्रेया को जहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा मज़ा आया था जब मुझे थप्पड़ मारा.
करेक्ट.
और उस दिन मुझे शिफाली ने भी थप्पड़ मारा, बिकॉज उन्होंने श्रेया को बोला कि देखो वो पचक वाली आवाज नहीं आ रही है, सो पचक वाली आवाज आनी चाहिए. तो श्रेया ने बोला कैसे, तो शिफाली ने बोला वरुण इधर आओ, और हमारे पास उसका एक बूमरैंग भी है.
BTS,
फिर शिफाली ने एक मारा मुझे. सब लोग मेरे को बेसिकली थप्पड़ मार रहे थे उस दिन.
और हमारा एक वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग फन डांस सीक्वेंस भी है. मुझे कभी मौका नहीं मिला था स्क्रीन पे डांस करने का, तो इस बार मुझे वो भी मौका मिला. सो या, lawyers having fun. I mean that is what the show is about also, not just the courtroom stuff.
I feel like अगर स्क्रीन पे लड़ाई अच्छी दिखनी चाहिए ना, तो पर्सनली नहीं हो सकती. क्योंकि स्क्रीन पे भी लड़ाई, वैनिटी में भी लड़ाई, तो फिर तो बनेगा ही नहीं कुछ. So I think also you're professional actors, like you come into it with your contract signed and you want to do a good scene. So personally there's so much at stake to be well behaved professionals. So I think this idea where actors are fighting with each other, it doesn't really happen, because you know your boundaries and you know that you have to go on set and pull this big show off.
But
So
I do have
and
to
I also
say,
you and I got along instantly.
And in the show, we don't get to see much of that in the trailer, but in the show, Sugandha for me is, I mean,
I want to be Sugandha basically.
she is really my support system.
And it's also something that Shreya had mentioned earlier, was that none of us really knew each other that well, which played out the best way, because because as actors then subconsciously वो रिलेशनशिप वही वाला काइंड ऑफ बनना शुरू हो जाता है जो आपने प्ले करना है. इट्स वेरी सबकॉन्शियस थिंग व्हिच नोबडी रियली प्लान्स, बट सो इफ इट्स अ कंप्लीटली फ्रेश sort of situation, then it just becomes that much easier. And like she said, if they're professionals, then everyone does it.
Yeah, and there's also like श्रेया और जो मेरे किरदार हैं, जो लड़कियां हैं, वो दिल्ली की बड़ी रिबेलियस वाली, जो दिल्ली की लड़कियां होती हैं ना, थोड़ी सी जो I mean, I feel like
ये ज़्यादा पर compared to Kashyap.
But the fact that वो अपना खुद का ऑफिस चलाती हैं दिल्ली में for the people associates, उन लोगों के लिए लड़ रही हैं जिनको हो सकता है और लोगों से representation ना मिले. So they are already in a very unique world of like being like a certain having a rebellion. So I think in that a sisterhood is little bit more important than going at each other. But I don't know.
But did you three had any idea about what goes behind in a legal system before being a part of this show?
I didn't
actually also because I don't know, you know, sometimes when you're doing when you're entering a world which is a world that is already established, even though you should, like it's a process thing, ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप बिल्कुल ही घुस के अपना कैरेक्टर ढूंढ पाएं, हर किसी का प्रोसेस अलग होता है. जैसे मेरे लिए उस वर्ल्ड में ज़्यादा घुसना थोड़ा इंटिमिडेटिंग है, तो मुझे पता है मेरे को मेरी लाइंस लर्न करनी है, डायरेक्टर के नोट्स लेने हैं और को एक्टर्स को बहुत ज़्यादा I mean I have to have fun with them. That works for me better, I feel. But I don't know, how do you feel?
No, I agree. हम लोग actually कुछ ज़्यादा ही importance दे देते हैं वो पूरा कि research होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए. Actually वो होता है, you have to for some parts which are not very close to you, but actually it's just going there and just absorbing the vibe कि मतलब हमने देख लिया कि अब ये हमारी आंखों के लिए real है, अब हमारा brain convince हो जाएगा कि हम इसको play कर सकते हैं. So more than the research, it's just sort of taking in the vibe of the courts and how a lawyer is, and वो तो हम देखते ही आए हैं. Sure, films में exaggerated रहता है, but we all have lawyer friends. We've all seen it. कभी ना कभी कोई ना कोई तो कोर्ट गया ही होगा. मैं गया हूँ, मैं ये नहीं बताऊंगा क्यों.
इनके पास एक्सपीरियंस है थोड़ा.
बट सब देख चुके हैं और वो एक कन्विक्शन आ जाता है जब किसी को किसी चीज़ को किसी कैरेक्टर को प्ले करने का, तो वो रिसर्च उसी के लिए होती है बस.
The only thing that I observed in my friends who are lawyers is that they would be really overworked and working a lot and really a lot of stressful job. But otherwise, I know that all of them are very passionate about what they do. And on our set, because our writers and our director, they have a lot of experience. Shefali comes from a family of lawyers. Even our writer Diksha, she's a lawyer herself. Manav Bhushan, he also had studied law in the past. Jayant, he also has knowledge about it. So we knew we were in safe hands, because the fear is always that you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to come across as someone trying too hard.
Personally, I would like to ask you, you come from a family background where your parents are also actors. So how do you go about choosing your roles? Do they give their inputs, or it is solely your decision? And how do they comment or view your projects?
Well, to be honest, I have been brought up to feel independent and confident and to trust myself. But for me, they are not just my parents, they are actors and artists who I respect, and I value their experience, of course. So yes, every time I take up a project, I do, they're like a soundboard for me. So I do share with them what I have in mind, and you know, if there are any reservations. But they'll never tell me what to do. They will allow me to ask myself the right questions before I take it up. But I don't like to tell them everything about the project, because then I want them to also watch it later as an audience without knowing too much. But I have to say, they were most excited about Guilty Minds, because this is the first time, perhaps one of the few times, where I get to carry a show on my shoulders, or to be able to sink my teeth into a part that I can really explore, you know, that emotional range, and do so much that perhaps I haven't had a chance to do before.
My common question to all three of you now: one thing about legal system you think should change?
I just feel like अगर कोई किसी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जज से अगर उनसे पूछा जाए कि आप एक्टर्स को क्या एडवाइस देना चाहेंगे, उनको भी ऐसी फीलिंग आएगी जो जैसी मुझे आ रही है. मतलब आई थिंक ऑक्स वर्ड होता है ना, AUKS, थोड़ा it's a little bit odd for an actor to give advice to a legal system of a very well functioning democracy of years and years. I feel अगर आप उस जगह नहीं जा रहे हैं, उस डायरेक्शन में जहाँ पे आपने इतनी रिसर्च की, जहाँ पे आपको थोड़ी हिम्मत है कमेंट करने की, तब तो सेंस बनता है. वरना कोई जज आपसे कहे कि आपको इस सीन में रोना चाहिए था, हंसना नहीं चाहिए था, आपको भी बहुत वियर्ड लगे.
And for all three of you again, how was it getting into the psyche of such an intense character, I would say, because law being a noble profession, you really have that responsibility to carry the role with justice.
True.
So did you have that baggage of responsibility when this roles were offered to you?
I don't think it's got anything to do with the fact that it's a lawyer, and that's why we have a sense of responsibility towards it. I think how all of us act, if I can speak for all of us, is that there is a responsibility when you're just trying to play a life, just trying to play anything and trying to make it like a reflection of life. So it's scary because it's any character. It could be any character. I think any of us were playing, even if he was not a lawyer, even if he was a regular guy who ran a restaurant. The pressure is as much, and I think we only put that pressure on ourselves. We don't need anybody else to put that pressure on us.
Especially when something is well written, I'll say, you know, that
Yeah.
when that happens to me,
Yeah.
rather that happened to me when I really liked the script so much, and when you see on text the character is written that well, I sometimes feel that pressure of, will I be able to do justice to it? But then once, like for example, here when I felt that pressure and I was getting into it, then my director realized that I was being too cerebral about it, and then she told me to not feel that.
Yeah. I feel like I'm very लड़ाकू, like मेरे को आर्ग्यू करने में बड़ा ही मजा आता है कि सालों हफ्ते निकल जाएं अगर कोई किसी भी बात पे आर्ग्यू कराने के लिए, you know, the release you feel, the way you feel creatively, I have not felt that before in a scene which is like emotional है कि हंसना है कि लड़ाई है जो भी है. Within that technicality, you feel very important. You feel like this means something, like it matters. किसी की जिंदगी के बारे में ये बात है. So it doesn't. You feel like it
not
means
frivolous,
something.
yeah.
It's not frivolous.
Yeah, before this you even told, मतलब आप तीनों ने बोला कि it took 4 years for this project to finally come out.
2 years filming, but 4 years even writing and pre-production.
2019 we signed. No? 2019.
Yeah.
And you know,
December.
because of pandemic, the way things got stuck. How was
Yes.
this interim like?
I have not taken for granted that we're getting the good release that we are getting. The fact that we get to do this in person, the fact that the situation is better now, I just can't take it for granted, you know. So I'm actually we're all so grateful that we are, like, Amazon has released it the way it has because of this uncertainty. And I think, like Sungandha said at that point, because it was a life and death situation that we were going in, our instincts were not to think show ka kya hoga, but eventually as we started getting closer to it, we were just happy. And mind you, through all the mandates, Amazon did a very good job of making sure everybody was following the mandates. But it was not easy even for all the other actors who were sitting in court listening. There were so many people. And to know that everybody sort of did it and are hopefully all in good health, that is important. And just one thing about the previous question about responsibility that you asked, there were moments where all of us in our individual scenes and even together, we were very moved by some of the things that we were actually saying and doing as lawyers. We were also moved as people, and those out of body experiences are for me the biggest, like that is my biggest takeaway, because as an actor I had not really experienced these things with the gravity that I did while shooting for this show, especially the 3rd episode of this, which was important for all of us, I think.
Varun, what would you like to?
I mean, you spoke about COVID and all. So I did a project almost 3 or 4 years ago, which was Jalebi, and the film did not really work theatrically. Thank God it came out on Amazon Prime and it worked a little bit. So when something doesn't work out, you kind of, you know, sit down again, figure out what happened, what didn't happen, what you can make better, and you also then become a little bit choosy about what the kind of work you want to do and which direction you want to go in. And so finally when Guilty Minds happened and you finally are on board a project which is which you like the script, you like the director, you like the cast, you just love everything about it, you can't believe that you're going to start shooting it, and you start shooting it and then boom. This thing called COVID happens, which no one knew what it was. I was like, what are you talking about? I remember the first time somebody came and told me this, I said, this has to be a universal joke.
ये शूट शुरू हुआ, लाइफ शुरू हुई, from all three of you, I would like to hear one BTS fun anecdote that is still with you, you know, even after the show is complete, जो अभी तक as a memory है आप लोगों के साथ.
So the first scene that I came back and shot, I remember it was in Mud Island somewhere, and it's a scene with Namrata. I don't think it was with you.
No, but I also was in Mud Island.
So it was with Namrata. It was a scene in which we're having dinner at some restaurant in the scene, and it had been so many months. Okay, it had been 8-9 months since I had spoken lines. I mean, of course, घर पे बैठ के तो करते ही हो. तो मेरी उस दिन आवाज़ ही नहीं निकल रही थी, मतलब आवाज़ ही अंदर चली गई थी. तो my director Shefali, who keeps making me jump on the spot so that my energy levels are higher for Deepak, like, Varun, तुम्हारी आवाज़ बहुत तभी I said, yeah, but that's the character ना, this moment, you know, but थोड़ा बाहर निकालो आवाज़ को. So yeah, it took a little while to just sit in front of someone who was not wearing a mask to start with.
यही था, I think Mud Island में ये क्लोज सेट था जहाँ पे हम लोग थे और हम सबकी आंखों में वो जो डर था ना पीछे की तरफ कि ये हो जाएगा नहीं होगा, but you also know, you know, you have to come and do the work and
Exactly.
उस दौरान मैंने एक और सीरीज भी शूट की थी, तो लकीली दोनों सेट ही बड़े सेफ थे.
I actually remember the day right before we went into lockdown. जब हम हिमाचल में थे, पालमपुर में थे, और उस दिन शूट होना था पर कैंसिल हो गया, और ये इतना हेक्टिक स्केड्यूल रहा है, पर एक दिन अचानक फिर सबको फ्री मिल गया और हम चारों, नम्रता, सुगंधा, वरुण and I, all four of us incidentally happened to be there on the same day. And then we decided कि अच्छा कहीं घूमने जाते हैं, because we didn't get a chance to hang out and relax. सुंदर जगह में थे, तो हम गए, एक impromptu picnic जैसा कुछ हो गया, बनाना ब्रेड खा रहे थे, बातें कर रहे थे. So that was actually the first time that all four of us got to actually relax. And also before we went into lockdown, वो शायद आखिरी एक बाहर का दिन था हमारा. So वो मेरे लिए एक अच्छी memory है.
Please watch the show.
They
We've all had a tough pandemic. 2 years we are all returning back to a normal life, and I hope that your normal life now includes us a little bit in it. And yeah, we'll see you on the screen.
22nd April.
It's a banging show, watch it.
Guilty minds. Woo, woo.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Follow our channel Absolute India News on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and website.